Well, good morning. It is Thursday morning and it is the 3rd of February. Today's devotion is entitled, Is It All Over Now? Is it all over now? It's rooted in Mark chapter 16, verses 1 through 8. The lyrics for the song today by that title, Is It All Over Now, are co-written with Brown Bannister. Just yesterday, in our sorrow, we tenderly buried the king like a beggar. Now I despise his light in my eyes. What has it all been for? Where will I go and what will I do? Is it all over now? Why did he live? And what did he die for? Still, I believe somehow. Last night, as I slept through the tears I had wept, I remembered a curious promise. What was it he said? He would rise from the dead. What a desolate hope to cling to. Where will I go and what will I do? Is it all over now? Why did he live? And what did he die for? Still, I have hope somehow. Early this morning, before the sun's dawning, the women came running in wildly, trembling with fear. Our hope became clear as we ran to see if it was true. How could it be? And what does it mean? I'd seen his body so lifeless, but now it is gone, and my hope can live on, for Jesus is really risen. He's risen. It's hard to recapture the emotional turmoil of Jesus' followers immediately after his death. They left everything to follow him, home, work, family, and now it was all simply over. But for the women who were closest to him, it was not over. His body still needed to be cared for. In Jesus' day, two-stage burial was practiced. Step 1 involved washing and wrapping the corpse. Step 2, which occurred a year later, involved washing the bones and placing them in an ossuary or bone box. In spite of what seemed a total failure, utter defeat, the women came to accomplish stage 1, to anoint Jesus' corpse. There's absolutely zero expectation among them that he would rise from the dead as he had repeatedly promised. They come to the abandoned quarry where the tomb is located to care for a corpse, nothing more. It is all over. The hope of Messiah is as dead as the lifeless body they are expecting to find in the tomb where they had left it before Sabbath began. His life, their hope together, was a sad experiment that had failed. Hate won. Death won. The dream was dead. Mark's brilliance as a writer is nowhere better seen than in the closing of his gospel. Even in his own day, its creative brilliance was unappreciated. At least 2 different writers tried to quote-unquote finish his story properly by adding a few lines, a longer ending and a shorter one, borrowing bits and pieces from the other Gospels. But the original story, as he first told it, ends with verse 8, and the women afraid, standing outside the empty tomb, perplexed, amazed, and wordless. The literary mastery of this ending is that it leaves us standing with the women outside that vacant tomb as well. We are forced to cope with the situation exactly as they were. We are forced to believe without seeing the body. We are compelled to trust Jesus' promise without any proof. That was Mark's contribution to the early church to draw them into the drama of the moment as no other gospel writer in the decades to follow would do. It was risky and brilliant, and he needs to be deeply appreciated for the literary genius that he was. Why did he live? And what did he die for? Still, I believe, somehow, this lyric works insofar as it communicates the bewilderment of the women at the tomb on resurrection morning. It seeks to put to words and define their feelings of despair and hope mixed together in the moment. It captures that rudimentary hope they held on to in the face of the lack of proof. They saw an empty tomb, which may have been evidence, but was no proof. I like that. It captures that rudimentary hope they held on to in the face of the lack of proof. That is faith. That is faith, not having to see it, but to believe it. Because God has said so. Because Jesus said so in this case, that he would rise again. Well, there's an empty tomb. Let's believe it. We haven't seen him yet, but we're going to believe it. That's faith, and that's childlike faith, to believe something without having to have it proved or to see it with our own eyes. That's not faith. Let's have faith. Let's have faith in the Christ of the resurrection and the crucifixion, the Christ who loves us, the God, the Father, who cannot lie and has made great and exceeding promises that he's fulfilled in his Son Jesus. Blessings today.